Yo, what is going on, guys? We are back today for another video, and I've decided that it's been about a year anyway, so it's time to redo these videos. I like to do them yearly, like pretty much every summer. We're gonna be counting down this is my opinion, who I personally think, after 5 years of grinding the crap out of this game, making a YouTube video, trying to post every single day, who I think are the top 5 best champions in every single class as of right now. And there's been a lot of shake-up since I did this series a year ago. Things have definitely changed. And in the science and cosmic episodes for this series, man, those ones are going to be very difficult. But I'm going to start with an easy one. We're going to start with mutants today, because I feel like the 5 best mutants in the game is like pretty agreed upon. It's just the order that you put them in is really going to vary depending on really who you ask. So I think that's what it comes down to. But yeah, I'm pretty confident with my picks for the mutant class, so I'm going to count them down. And remember, guys, this is my opinion from playing the game, from my experience. You know, I'm sure your experience is different, but let's just keep it civil and nice in the comments. It's totally cool to disagree. Just don't be a big jerk about it. All right? Okay, let's get into it. So, coming in, oh yeah, also one slight disclaimer. This how I'm going to be doing this list, you know, is based upon offensive potential, defensive potential, prestige. You know, does this champion need awaken, high sig, specific mastery, specific synergies? Like, all that kind of stuff is going to be factoring in to this list. And we're not going to be accounting for horsemen, really anything, because everyone in the mutant class can become horsemen, and everyone in the mutant class can become better from horsemen. But we're just not going to be taking that into consideration today. Maybe if I made like a top 5, top 10 horsemen mutants, that'd be a different video where that would factor in, but this one I want to keep it separate. Okay? Okay, finally, let's go ahead and start with the number 5 spot, man. This was kind of a tough one. It's Omega Red. Now, this is kind of tough for me, and it's just because the thing is, like, Omega Red used to kind of be like the best mutant in the game. For a period of time, he reigned supreme. All the champions above him on this list either weren't out or were in their pre-buff state, except for one. So yeah, like, for a long time, Omega Red reigned over the contest, and I knew the moment I played him in the CCP, like all max sig with suicides, and I was fighting Winter Soldier, I remember I'm like, this guy is something special. And I knew that right away. And I remember I grinded for him in Arena. I had like never used like any mutant 5-star signature stones. Well, maybe I used some, but I had been like stockpiling them, just waiting for like that right mutant champion. And that was Omega Red, man. I grinded for the 5-star, got him from Arena. I think me and Brian Grant actually grinded for him together, because we both knew like how good of a champ this guy was. We were both running suicides a lot back then, and he was just perfect. I could easily give him the signature stone investment, and it was great. But that was a long time ago. That was when Omega Red first came out, and he dominated for a long time. But the thing is now, he's got to pass the torch on, man. I don't think he's the best mutant champion anymore. I still think he's totally deserving of the top 5. It's just, there's a couple big problems with Omega Red, and that the first, and by far the biggest issue, is he needs max sig. Like, you don't want to be running Omega Red below sig 100. Like, you just don't. Especially at a 6-star level. Like, below sig 100, no. So minimum 100 sigs. That's a lot. That's a big investment. And of course, ideally, sig 200. Like, I wouldn't be ranking this guy unless I could get him to, like, at least probably sig, like, 150 or, like, 169. Like, something really high, but maybe not fully 200. But that's the problem with Omega Red, dude, is he just has such a big sig stone investment. And I think that's the big problem with him. Every other champion on this list, you know, like sig 20, they're good. So I just think that's a really big limiting factor for Omega Red. And I just, honestly, I think the champs above him, I see them being used more. I think they're on the same level as Omega Red. I think they're just as good as him. They can do just as much as him. So I had to keep him at this number 5 spot. That's his limiting factor. Like I said, this list is close. I think these are the top 5 champs. And again, depending on who you ask, the order is going to vary. If you ask, for example, Lizer or Amanda, 2 really good female Omega Red players that I've played with, they'd probably put him a little higher, which I totally respect because that's like their champion, you know. But I feel like Omega Red players are more of a rare breed these days. So I'm going to leave it at that. Omega Red coming in at that number 5 spot. That's my reasons. That's my justifications. Okay, coming in at the number 4 spot. This one's tough, man. This one's really tough. I'm not even entirely sure. Which one? Archangel. So Archangel comes in at the number 4 spot. It's kind of tough. He could go a little bit higher. It's just, you know, Archangel, he's going to work when you bring him to the right matchups. And, you know, that's what he's all about. Him and the next champion coming in at the number 3 spot. I just think the champion coming in at the number 3 spot has a bit more of an advantage in his fights. Whereas Archangel, you know, if they can bleed and poison, they're going to die quick. And you really don't need a lot of SIGs with Archangel either. Mine's at SIG 31 right now. He's reducing ability accuracy by 27% per neurotoxin. And this is more than enough, dude. Honestly, this has been more than enough for me. Been crushing things with Archangel. And it's, yeah, like, he doesn't need that massive SIG stone investment. Like, I just put in a few SIGs. You know, he's good to go. He's good for endgame content already. He's good for Alliance War. Like, he's good for Gauntlet. He's good for everything already. Just at this, you know, no big 6 stone investment. Doesn't matter if you have suicides or no suicides. Archangel's going to shred what he's going to shred at the end of the day. It's just a matter of bringing him in to the right matchups. And like I said, for a long time, Omega Red reigned supreme in the Mutant class above Archangel. Why? Well, that's because for a long time, this game wasn't so easy to always bring in Archangel to those right matchups. Alliance War, for example, used to be all hidden defenders. So you'd have to run like detect masteries just to see what class you're fighting. And you'd have to look for like persistent charges to try to figure out which specific champion it is. For example, like an unduped science champion could be a MODOK. You don't know, but when he's awakened, he has persistent charges, so that could be a way to know who it is, because you don't want to go into a matchup with Archangel and they're immune to bleed or poison, you know, then you're kind of screwed. But once Kabam got rid of that, like, Archangel really started to shine a lot more, which is awesome. I'm really happy to finally have pulled him as a 6-star. I've been wanting this guy for so long, and I think he's absolutely incredible. But the problem is there's just so many champions these days with an immunity to bleed or poison or a really powerful shrug effect that just makes it really hard for Archangel to, you know, even get those neurotoxins applied. But there is stuff like, you know, White Magneto's guidance that can help him and stuff, but, you know, this list isn't taking into account pre-fights and synergy and stuff. This is just individual champions and how I'm ranking them. So Archangel comes in at the number 4 spot. Very, very strong champion. So glad to finally have this guy. And as a horseman, he definitely gets taken to a new level. You know, he makes the RNG, the randomness of the RNG just go down, which is incredible. It's one of his, you know, biggest, most limiting factors is just not being able to control your RNG. It's random. You know, like, well, what can you do? Being a horseman can really help with that. But again, that's not a factor on this list. So that's Archangel coming in at the number 4 spot. Yeah, Omega Red 5, Archangel 4. Now number 3. This one was a bit of a toss-up. I was trying to decide which one. Magneto. So I decided to put Magneto at the number 3 spot, one above Archangel, for a couple of reasons. So I feel like Archangel and Magneto are actually fairly comparable because, you know, you want to bring them both to the right matchups. You know, Magneto, metal champions. Archangel, champions that can be bled and poison easily and, you know, ideally don't really shrug. But the thing is, if you put both these champions in their ideal matchups, I feel like Magneto still has more of an advantage than Archangel does. And the really cool thing is Magneto can even fight against class disadvantage and turn it off. Sorry guys, if I need some water. They can just turn off class disadvantage, you know, if they're a metal. And I think Magneto and Archangel actually complement each other quite well because, you know, like, a lot of metal tech champs typically have some type of immunity, especially like the robots being immune to both bleed and poison. And so Magneto is kind of able to complement Archangel in the fact that, you know, he can take those fights for Archangel. But I think there's like a third of the game or something like that. That is metal. That's a lot of really good matchups for Magneto. And when he has those good matchups, like it's insane. All of the different things, all the different bonuses that he gets. If they can be bled, you do insane damage with the special 3. You get the magnet, bleeds, and these are just insane. They detonate once they finish ticking. So that just nukes people down. And if they're bleed immune, then instead you apply armor breaks, and that just makes the special 3 hit like 3 times harder. And it's just, oh man, it's so insane. Also, you have 50% perfect block, and you can't be auto-blocked or miss. So that just makes Magneto so powerful in his matchups. Like against MODOK, you just never have to worry about him auto-blocking. It's pretty nice against like Ghost. You never have to worry about her phasing, because you can just bypass the miss. It's pretty crazy. He's also 90% immune to bleed and shock debuffs. So those are some pretty nice immunities that Magneto has going for him. He's such a monster. I think Magneto literally set the benchmark for like what the best possible buff can look like in MCOC. Like it's honestly insane. I have a new series coming up that I'm going to be playing around with champions that have been buffed. And at the end of the video, I'm going to give them a rating out of 10 for how good I think their buff is. And a 10, the benchmark for a 10 is Magneto's buff. Like this guy literally set the goalpost for the most ideal buff. Like you can't sleep on this man. He used to be one of the worst champs in the entire game. He just went from absolute 0 to absolute hero. Although he's a villain. But you know what I mean. Like, Magneto's just insane. And I think he absolutely deserves this number 3 spot. I even thought of Magneto as the best mutant champ in the game for a while. But I think that was before these next 2 champions really came out. Or definitely before one of them came out. One of them might have been out, but took a little bit of time for that champion to really gain the recognition that they deserve on their own right, which is the number 2 spot, which we're going to talk about next, actually. So, that number 2 spot is Apocalypse. So, I think Apocalypse is just an absolute gem for the mutant class. I think this guy has done more for the mutant class easily than any other champion ever has and ever will. His Horseman ability is one of the absolute best in the game. And like I said, we weren't going to be judging champions on their merit based on their Horseman merit, but like Apocalypse can't become a Horseman. He just gives it out. So, you know, we can talk about it with him because he boosts the entire class, which is insane. He boosted one of the most famous synergy buffs in the history of the game is Cable. Cable literally is god-awful garbage. But put him on a team with Apocalypse and he becomes a useful champion. Actually, a really good DPS degen champion. Like, it's insane just what a synergy did for Cable. I love it. I love it. And not only that synergy, but this Horseman buffs the entire class. But I think judging Apocalypse on just his own merit as a champion, I still think the next champion is better just because they're so broken. And you guys already know who it is anyways. But I'm not saying APOC. Like, APOC is a solid number 2. Like, if it wasn't for the champion number 1, APOC would be there all day long. He's just done so much for the mutant class. It's just the next champion is just broken. So there's not a whole lot he can do against that. But yeah, I absolutely love Apocalypse. He's definitely on my list for like, I have like a bit of a list of I don't actually have a list. It's just in my head. But it's like the next like 5 champions I have in mind to take up to rank 4, essentially. And Apocalypse is on that list. 100%. I definitely want to take him to rank 4 within like my next 5 rank ups. Because I just think he's that good. I really do. Apocalypse is absolutely incredible. He can become immune to bleed and incinerate after just having those debuffs on him for a while. He places strong poison, degen, concussion, and weakness that he can permanently lock in with a special 3, which is insane for long fights. Also has bleeds on his heavy attacks, and just insane damage on his special 1 and 2. And you can also pair this with a mutant boost to cycle specials. And it's just, wow. Apocalypse, man. It's so funny, too, because when Apocalypse first came out and the deep dive, the comments on it, everyone was, not everyone, but so many people were so disappointed. Like, oh my god, you guys ruined Apocalypse, like trash damage, like all this stuff. And look at this man now. Look at Apocalypse now. He's so warmly welcomed by everyone in the community. Everyone loves him. Everyone knows how strong he is, and it's great. It's great to see these really powerful comic book champions finally get added and be that good. I love seeing success stories like that in MCOC. I want to see so much more. Apocalypse, absolute banger. Definitely want to rank for this guy soon. But of course, guys, the #1 best champion in the Mutant class, in my opinion, is Kitty Pryde. And I think everyone saw this coming. I've talked about her. I've made so many videos on her. So when I first got Kitty Pryde, like, she was pretty busted, right? We all knew that she was pretty crazy. But I told you guys, like, I think Kitty's on the same level as Hercules, if not even crazier. And when I first said that early on, not many people agreed with me. But that's what I love about YouTube and about these big statements that I make. These crazy statements that I make early on. And then I try to prove them. And I think I've done a pretty good job proving how crazy Kitty Pryde is. After a lot of you guys started getting her as a 6-star, a lot of you guys really started to see what I was talking about. Once you feel that power for yourself, playing Kitty for yourself, you can just feel how busted and how broken it is. And like I said, I wasn't really going to be taking synergy into account for this list, and I'm still not. Kitty Pryde's all about playing her super skilled. If the best Kitty Pryde player in the world, doesn't even need the Tiger synergy, they're just that good at intercepting and getting those openings without it, you don't even need it. It just makes her a lot easier to play for a noob like me. That's why I like it so much. But that synergy is definitely not at all needed. She can get unblockable on her own through her special attacks. So, if you're worried about like auto block or something like that, you can get a really, really long duration on your unblockable on the special too. You can even make it passives too, which is what I love about Kitty. But I think the reason why Kitty's just the #1 and just why I think she's so broken is just because of her phasing ability. And because she takes absolutely no damage in it, which that in and of itself is pretty insane. But with higher SIGs, she actually takes even more damage or more power when getting hit. So the craziest thing about Kitty, man, is that she's a miss champion. But every champion in the game that counters miss, Kitty counters them. She counters her counter, which I think is just the reason what makes her so crazy. Because she doesn't have the real counters. They had to make new counters, which are through the cowardice mechanic to counter Kitty. Literally, like all the other counters in the game that countered her type of abilities, she just counters them. It's like in Smash Bros. When like 2 champions are countering a projectile, and you counter it back, and the counter like multiplies it, and then they die. And it's insane, man. It's insane how strong her ability to counter her counter is. So with Max Sig, which is what I have Kitty at, she, while phased, gained 250% defensive combat power rate, and pause phasing while being struck. And you pause it. So while phasing is paused, you take no you're indestructible. It's basically an indestructible buff. And it can get paused by this. So I made a video showing how Kitty Pryde can cheese Quicksilver. You can see as soon as Quicksilver gets enough charges to counter miss, I can literally just let him hit me and just get free power. A champion that gains like True Sense to counter miss, Kitty can counter. The Nick Furies, Kitty is so good for countering Nick Fury. Like, it's just, the counter to a counter is absurd. And her phasing is already absurd. And so you can pause it, and then with the special 3, you can get an even longer duration. You can add 4 seconds. That's 4 seconds of just being indestructible. And I've paired this with the Kitty cycle, which is essentially you build to your special 3, you drop it, you push them to their special 3, and then they drop it. But remember, you're phasing, so you have an indestructible. You're going to take 0 damage from their special, and you're also going to get more power back because you're phasing from the signature ability when you're getting hit by their special. So this gives you increased power. So you can get to usually pushes you to about your special 2. Then you just take a couple hits into your phase. You get more prowess. You drop an unblockable special. It does a boatload of damage. They're dead. You take no damage from recoil or anything because remember, you're phasing. You're immune to damage. And it's so crazy, dude. Honestly, like, I seriously cannot believe that Kabam added Kitty Pryde to the game the way she is. Like, I would have thought that they'd learn their lesson after Ghost. But they didn't. And here's Kitty Pryde now. Honestly, I think she's a lot more relevant than Ghost is these days. And I just think that's because of how insane her phasing mechanic can be, how it can be so elongated. And you don't need any synergies to do this. You know, with Ghost, to take an L3, you need Hood on the team. And you need to time the phase. You have like a much smaller window to time that phase special threes, but it's still totally doable. But again, you need the Hood synergy. And for Ghost to have unblockable specials, you need the Wasp synergy. But Kitty, she has those synergies literally built into her kit. So her just being awakened is essentially, you know, having that Hood synergy. And as long as you have 10 prowess, so you see that special 2 there, with 10 plus prowess, gain an unblockable buff lasting 9 seconds. That's a very long duration, and if you throw it while you're phasing, it's an unblockable passive instead of a buff. And again, that's the Wasp synergy just built into Kitty's kit. Like, I honestly, it boggles my mind that Kabam really made her a real champion. But I'm very glad that they did, because I love her. And yeah, I think she's just undisputedly the best mutant in the game for just honestly how blatantly broken she is. That's my genuine, honest reasoning after putting in so many hours into Kitty Pryde, playing her, making videos on her, talking about her. I feel like I am very well informed about her, and so that's why I can just say this with such confidence, how broken I think she is and how she just easily is the best mutant champ. Again, in my opinion, with all my testing, all my experience, that's the conclusion that I've come to. So that is going to do it for this first episode of the top 5 best mutant champions. Well, we're going to do this for every other class. And like I said, the science and the cosmic one are going to be the 2 toughest ones. So definitely stay tuned for those episodes. But that's going to do it for this one, guys. I hope you did enjoy. Drop a like. If so, I'd love to hear feedback. What you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below. Do you agree with the list? Do you agree with like these champions being the top 5, but maybe you change the order? And if you would, let me know what your order would be. Or if you think maybe Professor X should be in top 5 or someone else. Just let me know. Very interested and keen to read the comments on this one. I've been looking forward to making these videos for a while. That's going to do it. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you did enjoy it. Peace out.